Okay, so everyone has that feeling, right? That urge to just like hit snooze when something feels too challenging. It's just easier to stick with what we know, right? What's comfortable and familiar. But today we're going to dig into some excerpts from this piece called Embracing Challenges, How Growth Fuels Happiness. And, well, we're going to see if maybe that comfort zone is really all it's cracked up to be. What do you think? Ready to get a little uncomfortable with me?
I am absolutely ready. It's fascinating, though, this desire we have to just be comfy, cozy. It's like really ingrained in us biologically,
That's why.
Our brains are wired for safety and security. I mean, it's a primal instinct. It kept us alive for what, thousands of years. But these days, it might actually be what's keeping us from having, a richer life.
Yeah, that's such a good point. But let's get specific. Like, what are the reasons we actually, you know, shy away from these growth opportunities?
Well, I think past experiences have a lot to do with it. Like, think about it if you've ever, stumbled or fallen short before you're naturally going to hesitate. Before you put yourself out there again. It's like almost like our brains build up these walls to protect us from getting hurt again.
It's so true. We've all been there. And this excerpt, it also highlights something else that I think a lot of us struggle with, and that's perfectionism. That need to do everything flawlessly, and it can really keep us from taking risks at all.
Oh, absolutely. We get so caught up in this idea of doing it perfectly that we never actually end up doing anything at all. And here's the thing, that fear of not measuring up, that can really lead to feeling stuck. And you know what? Being stuck can really kill your happiness.
Whoa. Okay. I never thought about it that way. So you're saying that playing it safe, that seems like the comfortable thing to do,
Yeah.
but it might actually be the thing that's keeping us from feeling content.
Exactly. And there's more. When we avoid challenges, we miss out on so many opportunities. I mean, think about it. Every challenge that you overcome, it opens a new door, leading to new experiences and skills and perspectives. It's like leveling up in life.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Like saying no to an adventure because you're a little scared of what you don't know. I
Mhm.
mean, thinking back on some of the best experiences I've had, they were always the ones that scared me the most in the beginning. But then that feeling, when you actually do it, that feeling of accomplishment on the other side, nothing beats it.
Exactly. You're so right. It's that sense of accomplishment when you push past what you thought were your limits. It's so linked to our happiness. There's real science behind it too. Remember dopamine?
Oh, yeah. Dopamine.
Yeah.
The feel-good chemical. We get a rush of it when we accomplish something,
Hmm.
especially if it was something challenging.
Right. And every time we overcome a challenge, we're not just getting that hit of dopamine, we're actually rewiring our brains. It's called neuroplasticity. And it basically means our brains are always adapting based on our experiences. So facing challenges, even when they're uncomfortable, it's actually making us stronger, more resilient.
Wow. So brains are actually like thanking us for pushing them.
Mm.
I love that. But I'm curious about this link between challenges and happiness. Because it seems kind of backwards, doesn't it? Like, shouldn't avoiding stress and being uncomfortable make you feel more content?
That's a great question. And that's where things get really interesting. Because sometimes discomfort paves the way to a much deeper kind of happiness. When we push ourselves, we tap into this well of resilience and creativity and purpose. You just don't get that if you're constantly playing it safe.
Okay, now that's an idea I want to unpack a little more. Let's dig into this connection between growth and happiness. You mentioned resilience, but what are some of the other things that contribute to this, deeper sense of happiness?
Okay, well, think about it this way. When we're always avoiding challenges, we're sending ourselves this message like, you're not capable or you're not strong enough. But when we actually rise to the occasion and face that fear, and push through, we're rewriting that whole story.
Yeah, I can see how that would give you like a confidence boost.
Yeah,
And that could totally change your outlook on things. Like, hey, I did that. What else can I do?
exactly. And there's another big piece of this too, purpose. A lot of times, the challenges that we face are connected to things we're passionate about, or our values or our goals. Like, if you really care about making a difference, are you going to shy away from the tough stuff that comes with that?
That's a really good point. It's like those challenges are guiding us, you
Mm,
know, pushing us towards a life that has meaning.
absolutely. And don't forget about creativity and learning. Challenges force us to think differently, to problem solve and innovate. They keep our minds sharp and make us curious and contribute to this amazing sense of personal growth.
So it's not just about like checking things off your to-do list. It's about how you change on the inside during the process. We're learning and adapting and becoming more resilient. And all of that is what makes us happy. Well, okay, let's get real for a sec. How do we actually do all of this? I mean, it's easy to talk about, embracing challenges, but how do we actually make it happen?
That's the million-dollar question, right? But luckily, this article has some really practical advice for how to bring this philosophy into our everyday lives. So one of the best things you can do is start small. It's tempting to just jump right in, but what they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. Start with some, manageable challenges that feel a little outside your comfort zone, but not totally overwhelming.
Okay, so like instead of deciding to run a marathon tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll sign up for a 5K in a few months.
Exactly. Or maybe it's finally having that tough conversation you've been putting off. Or taking on a project at work that'll help you learn some new skills. Each little victory, it gives you more confidence to take on the next challenge. And speaking of tackling challenges, let's talk about how we think about failure. What if instead of seeing it as like a roadblock, we saw it as a stepping stone?
Ooh, I like that.
Hmm.
Tell me more about this reframing.
Okay, well, think about it. Every successful person you can think of has had setbacks and made mistakes. And they had to adjust. The key is to see those stumbles not as like proof that you're not good enough, but as valuable lessons.
So it's less about avoiding failing and more about like changing how we think about it.
Exactly. It's a chance to learn and adapt and get back out there stronger. Thomas Edison said it best: I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
That's such a good quote and reminds me of something else this excerpt talks about, setting realistic goals. It's so easy to get caught up in these big, huge dreams. But if they seem too far away, we might give up before we even start.
Totally. It can feel like you're frozen, like when you just focus on the top of the mountain. So instead, think about breaking down those big goals into smaller steps. So it's less about climbing Everest all at once and more about setting up a bunch of little base camps along the way. Each step, even a tiny one, helps you reach that final goal.
I love that, like you're creating a roadmap. Okay, and this also makes me think about something else from the excerpt, that progress is way more important than perfection. It's easy to get bogged down in the details and want everything to be perfect. But isn't it really more about the journey and how much we grow along the way?
You're so right. It's about, being okay with things being a little messy and celebrating the little wins. Focus on moving forward and don't get hung up on every little imperfection. And another important tool to have when you're, embracing challenges is support. Surround yourself with people who want to see you grow, people who encourage you to get outside that comfort zone and, who will listen when things get tough.
Ah, it's like having your own cheering section. Okay, so we've got some solid strategies. Starting small, reframing failure, setting realistic goals, prioritizing progress over perfection, and finding supportive people. But before we wrap up, I think it would be super helpful to see this in action. Like, what are some real-life examples of how embracing challenges can actually lead to a happier life?
I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah.
So let's say, for instance, you're stuck at a job that you hate. The kind where you hit snooze like 10 times every morning, you don't feel inspired or challenged or maybe even appreciated, but the thought of actually quitting is terrifying. Like, what if you don't find something else? What if you fail? So you just stay, day after day, year after year, and slowly you lose that spark.
Ugh, yeah, I've been there. That feeling of being stuck is the worst.
Right. But imagine this. You decide to actually do something about it. You start looking into new careers, maybe take some online classes, or reach out to people in fields that sound interesting. It's scary for sure, but it's also exciting. You're finally taking control of your future. And that feeling is so powerful. And you might not land your dream job right away. You might have some bumps in the road. But each step, each challenge you overcome gets you closer to doing something you love.
I love that. It's like going from I'm stuck to I'm taking charge.
Mm.
You're creating a life you actually want to live.
Exactly. Now let's think about something different. Let's talk about like fitness goals. I mean, we've all been there, right? It's a new year and you tell yourself, this is the year I finally get in shape. But then it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Hmm.
You see these perfect bodies everywhere and you're like, why even bother?
Oh, totally. It's so easy to compare yourself to others and just give up.
Right. But here's the thing. Being fit isn't about looking a certain way. It's about feeling good in your own skin and having more energy. And, it doesn't have to be this crazy all or nothing thing. It's about little steps you take consistently.
So instead of changing your whole life overnight, maybe you just commit to like a 20-minute walk a few times a week.
Exactly. Or maybe you finally start doing yoga or try that new workout video you saw online. It's about finding things that are challenging but also fun, things you can actually stick with. And the best part is that when you start embracing the challenge of getting healthier, you start to see all those benefits we were talking about, that feeling of accomplishment after a good workout. The resilience you build when you push through something hard. And it's amazing to see your body and mind transform.
And that sense of accomplishment doesn't just stay in the gym. It like spills over into other areas of your life too. Like you have more confidence to take on challenges at work or in your relationships.
Oh, absolutely. It's like these little wins, they have this ripple effect. Okay, one more scenario, and I think this one will resonate with a lot of people. Let's talk about public speaking. For a lot of people, the idea of getting up in front of a crowd is just terrifying.
Oh my gosh. I can relate to that. Public speaking used to be my biggest fear.
So imagine this. Someone gets this amazing opportunity, to share their expertise at a conference or give a presentation at work, but all they feel is fear. They just want to run away and hide. But what if instead of letting fear control them, they decided to just go for it?
Okay, I'm hooked. What happens next?
They start by acknowledging that fear, but they don't let it stop them. They channel that energy into action. They start preparing and writing their speech. Maybe they even join a public speaking group or work with a coach. They're facing their fear head on, one step at a time.
Wow, that takes a lot of courage.
And you know what? Public speaking, it's like any other skill. It gets easier the more you do it. And as they start to see those little wins, maybe people laugh at their jokes or they get some positive feedback, or maybe they just make it through the whole thing without fainting. Their confidence just grows and grows.
And that confidence isn't just about public speaking, right?
Right.
It changes how they feel about themselves in general.
Exactly. It's incredible how one little act of courage can make such a big difference.
So we've talked about career changes and fitness goals and public speaking, all these amazing examples of how facing challenges can make you happier. But before we move on, let's just do a quick recap of the main points, just to make sure they stick with our listeners.
You got it. So number one, avoiding challenges, it might seem easier, but it actually stops us from growing. It's like choosing to just watch life go by instead of actually living it.
Right, like choosing a black and white sketch when you could have the whole colorful painting.
Exactly. Number two, facing challenges even when they're hard, it builds confidence and resilience. And that feeling of, I did it. And all of that is key to feeling happy.
Yeah, it's like those challenges are the little stepping stones that lead to a better life.
Yeah.
And last but not least, embracing challenges, it's a journey. It's about taking small steps, building momentum, not being afraid to fail, and celebrating every win along the way.
I love that. It's not about becoming some fearless superhero overnight. It's about making that comfort zone a little bit bigger, one challenge at a time, and trusting that with every step you're becoming stronger and more resilient, and you're creating a life that you truly love.
Okay, so we've talked about why it's important and how to do it. We even saw how embracing challenges can actually play out in real life. But now I want to hear from you, our listener. What's a challenge that's been on your mind lately? You know, the one you keep putting off? Maybe you're scared or unsure or just haven't felt like dealing with it.
Yeah, it could be anything. Maybe it's a creative project you've been dreaming about, or a tough conversation you need to have, or a goal at work that seems impossible, or even just a bad habit you want to break. Whatever it is, just take a second to think about it. Bring it to the front of your mind.
Yeah, sometimes just acknowledging it is a big step. Like you're taking back control and saying, I see you, and I'm not going to let you hold me back anymore.
And as you think about that challenge, I want you to ask yourself a question. What could happen if you actually went for it? What doors could open? How much could you grow? What kind of joy could you find on the other side of that fear?
And don't worry if you don't have all the answers right now. The first step is just recognizing the challenge and letting yourself feel all the feels that come with it. You know, the fear, the excitement, the uncertainty, it's all part of the process.
It's like planting a seed. You might not see it sprout right away, but if you take care of it, and you're brave and patient, it can grow into something amazing.
And you never know. Embracing that challenge might just be the start of a whole new chapter in your life, one that's full of growth and joy and more fulfillment than you ever imagined.
So to our incredible listeners, we'll leave you with this. What's your next brave step? We're cheering you on every step of the way.
And until next time, keep diving deep, keep asking those tough questions, and most importantly, keep embracing the power of growth.